Seems to me if you've got somebody to help you as you weep, maybe this is just too philosophical. Maybe I'm trying to combine things that can't be combined, but it makes sense to me.
Is it too on the nose to say that 2020 has been a year of frustrating, unexpected interruptions? I mean, that's an oversimplification if there ever was one.
I can't do it.
This year has been full of tension and genuine tragedy.
The tent, why didn't you let them set it up for you?
Well, children need to know that even when adults make plans, sometimes they don't turn out the way we'd hoped.
I think it's easy to kind of write off Mr. Rogers as a sweaters in the summertime, kindly old man, but that misses the fact that he was willing to grapple with challenging topics.
The parallels between what is happening in the real world and what is happening inside the neighborhood are uncanny and undeniable.
What does assassination mean?
In 1963, he spoke about the Kennedy assassination. In 1986, he spoke about the Challenger explosion.
Every time we went through a national or international tragedy, my impulse was always to call Fred.
This is really important. People listen to you.
He even came out of retirement to address the nation about 9/11. Mr. Rogers wasn't afraid of the dark.
I've been wondering if I was a mistake.
Or rather, he wasn't afraid to admit his fear of the dark. So, since we are starved for emotional leadership, and his voice is missed, I have a question, which is, what would Mr. Rogers say about the 2020 coronavirus pandemic? I think it's easy to project our worldview onto the icons of the past. If we squint, we can find whatever we want in nearly any historical figure. So to attempt to avoid oversimplification, I want to try and gather core themes that arise in his life by looking at a broad range of sources. First, of course, the Tom Hanks biopic based on the real-life relationship he had with the journalist Tom Junot. Next, the documentary featuring many of his family members. Two notable speeches he gave, one at Dartmouth and another famously at his induction to the TV Hall of Fame. And finally, listening to some of what people had to say at his memorial service. This will get us to a few core themes. The foundation, of course, is the basic care and kindness that he shows. This largely is something we already intuitively get about him. It's part of why we write him off, because we think we can stop there and say that we sort of got the idea. To push against that, though, in this video, we'll look specifically at the relationship between fantasy and reality, the world of make-believe. His Christianity, his role as a minister, his theology, his philosophy, the preferential option for the poor, as well as his emotional intelligence, his honoring of people's need to process their feelings. Healthy expressions of emotion are a paragon of Mr. Rogers' life. Time, silence, catharsis, etc. Finally, part of how we're going to do that, how we're going to understand him, is to look at his critiques of the media landscape of his time. Public television was arriving on the scene as he was coming to his sort of national fame. There's a lot of similarities between how media works now and how media worked then, and so a lot of the critiques are going to be the same. So if we do this, we'll have a strong enough foundation of who he was as a person to make some justified guesses as to what he might have said. And spoiler alert, I think some of them are worth reflecting on, especially as this year has been very challenging for many reasons, that being an understatement. We'll start with Tom Hanks and the cafe scene.
Would you do something with me, Lloyd? It's an exercise I like to do sometimes.